Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, comedy on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And my purpose in life is to be able to be a reflective mirror of love for the guests that I invite on my program. Opportunity for them to talk about their own experiences as it relates to what they consider to be valuable forms of leadership, what their concept of love is, overcoming adversity, and the lineage, in some cases, of their musical influences. And for the most part, I've done this with my elders, people that are much older than me from a different generation, but I realized that part of my purpose in life as well is also to capture the younger cats, the guys who are coming up in sort of a time when there is not a lot of certainty within the greater music community as it relates to how to make a living. Intellectual property rights are at a all-time low. There is no studio scene anymore, and the only way you can really make money as a musician is to be a road dog and then hope you make some money off the merch table. But still, setting that aside, there are young, authentic, creative cats who are searching for their sound and recognize that they're playing music to live, not to get off, not to find a state of bliss, but because they have to do it. Harrison Flynn, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks, Jake. I'm honored to do this interview, really.
Hey, I know you are, man. I appreciate your time. Can I ask you what your intentions are and have been as to why you got into music?
You know, it all stems back to, for me, I think when I first watched the Beatles' A Hard Day's Night movie, that excitement, that rush, seeing those four guys on screen, you know, playing music, and they're just having a great time. You know, they're just loving what they're doing. The music's amazing. You know, the girls are screaming. It just captured something. And being like 12 years old when I first saw that, you know, I kind of never looked back after that. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pick up a guitar, and you know, this is what I'm gonna do with my life. You know, that's kind of my.
So I mean, it's very. I mean, so there was people were having a great time. There were a lot of girls. Those are very good reasons to. But as far as like, I mean, I'm not a musician, but you know, for a long time I thought musicians were, you know, looking for this state of bliss, to reach a state of ecstasy, and then over time, after doing so many interviews, I've realized that they do it to effing live. They don't do it for bliss. And like, can you talk about that needing, that wanting, and that desire to have to play music in order to live? Do you have that? Is that the way you feel?
Oh, absolutely. It's my main form of expression. Through the guitar, I feel like I can express myself better than I can through anything else, really. And it's a scary thought to not be able to do it. You know, I would, you know, I'll do anything just to play my music, write, play for people. That's where I get the biggest high, is when I'm playing for in front of an audience. It's this undescribable feeling, you know, and like you said, you reach the state of bliss and ecstasy. It's incredible. So yeah, that's where I get off, really. Yeah. And
how hard has it been for you? I mean, if somebody took the microphone away from me for 2+ years, psychically, I wouldn't be in a very good place. I mean, just because the live gigs have just been, you know, and I'm not talking about doing a Zoom concert or whatever. That, I mean, that's fine, but it's different. And how hard has it been for you psychologically? And then what have you done to ground yourself? Because I mean, it's so easy to project out into this unknown future and say, well, what it's going to, and it's so important just to be here now. And I just wonder how you've, not just how you've dealt with this time, but also what you've done to keep yourself sane.
Yeah, well, with the whole pandemic, God, we're going back 2 years. I got out of LA for a bit. I'm from the Bay Area.
Oh,
my parents still live up there.
Nice.
So I went back up there and I stayed about 4 months up there. And like everybody else, I was kind of forced to spend a lot of time with myself.
Yeah.
Learn how to enjoy my own company. That's kind of all we got. So it was a really obviously a very difficult time for a lot of people, me as well. I mean, mentally and all that. But I really, I guess I could say I really was trying to look inward, and that led to a lot of creativity, looking inward, doing a lot of reading, a lot of listening, digging through my old record bin, finding records I haven't listened to in years, reading books, reading a lot of like Jack Kerouac stuff.
I love it.
And
well, can you give an example about
really
I mean,
fruitful...
I just want to ask you about like when you say going inward, sometimes that requires you to look at things that you may not be happy with about yourself. Is there something you can point to specifically that it wasn't a fun contemplation or meditation, but looking back on it, it was incredibly cathartic for you?
Yeah, like I feel like a completely different person than I was 2 years ago. I feel like that just comes with age, I guess, but also, like I said, looking inward. I've been in LA for about 6 years, and when I first moved out here, I was kind of, looking back, you feel like you're kind of this, young, arrogant SOB,
Yeah, I dig.
And I used to, I go out to shows, try to fit in, and you go through this big growth stage, this, a lot of growing pains. That's what I mean. And I guess, spending all that time with myself, it allowed me to, I guess, address parts of myself that maybe I wasn't too happy with, or I want to change in this way. And I feel like my writing got substantially better to that time. I was, just that inward, that inward look into yourself really brings out spills out a lot of things about you. And
can you point to one thing that you maybe had to let go of, or I mean, it's hard to say you want to change something. Sometimes there are behaviors or neurotic behaviors or personality things, or just in general, like, just the way you're built, like if you're trying to control it or change it, it doesn't change. You have to sort of just almost take a Zen approach to it. I mean, was one of those things like, oh man, I'm a crappy writer, and then you learned how to get out of your own way and began writing better lyrics. Can you just like give an example?
Yeah, I felt like I had to write a lot of bad songs, to bring out the good writing.
I dig, man.
A lot of write a lot of shit. Then there's some gold on the top of that, and I guess, I was really, because there's so many great writers, musicians in LA. It's incredibly inspiring, a lot of my friends, I'm really inspired by a lot of people around here. And towards the beginning, that can kind of, you got to be thick-skinned because, some people get, scared. It gets scary, I guess what I'm trying to say. So,
so give an example. So people are like bullies, they get insecure, they try to basically say you're full. You're talking about like,
not like bullying, but like, you see so many great artists out there, it kind of gets you a little bit insecure,
sure,
in a way.
Sure.
I feel like every artist has dealt with that.
Right. I mean, the point is like, and that's basically, you said you went through some growing pains. Well, give an example of a growing pain for Harrison Flynn in L.A. Clearly, you've evolved, and it'll be interesting to see when we are released back into some kind of normalcy. But I think it's just instructive to talk to for you to talk to younger cats or just people in general who, I mean, if you can't, the kitchen's going to get hot, and you got to be able to take it. I mean, is there a sort of an example of growing pain you can point to in LA?
Yeah, like through the 6 years, I've learned that I truly want to make music that's representative of who I am, who I am as a person, and like, I used to take on gigs, and stuff. Maybe that wasn't exactly a true representation of who I am, as a musician, and that can get like kind of unfulfilling in a way.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No, I dig. You got to pay the bills though,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But, right now I feel like I'm in a really, really good place. I have my own project. I'm writing with that, and I'm playing with some really talented cats, that I really love. I play with a singer-songwriter named Holy Gray, and we recorded an album last year out in Kentucky that I'm really proud of.
Wow.
And I have a duo project with my friend Olivia, called Olivia plus Harrison, and we're recording some singles right now to release. We have a buddy over in Laurel Canyon that has a really cool studio. We've been recording stuff over there and getting ready to release that. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place, and creatively and feeling really inspired in that way,
Talking to Harrison Flynn here on the Jake Feinberg Show. So you're back now in Los Angeles right now?
Yeah.
Can
I've
you?
been back for about a year.
I'm curious, like, in your mind, you have some projects which are very important at this time, but can you just sort of paint the picture for cats that live outside about how the landscape of live music has changed, if at all? I mean, I assume it has, but just in the sense that, we took it for granted, prior to March 2020, it's basically, there'd be 24 gigs going on at Los Angeles every night, pretty much, you'd have insane amounts of gigs, whether you liked playing the music or not. It was just a lot of live music, and that was the case for every major urban center in the world. And so the universal vibration was quite high, or at least kept high. And what is it like now? It seems to me that cats that I love and get off on and know personally, like, they're having these like tours and these bursts that are like really intense, but like that day-to-day sort of ability to just sort of commune and play, I don't know, it just doesn't seem that really prevalent or there at all. And can you talk a little bit about what the landscape kind of looks like right now in February of 2022?
Yeah, like I know what you're saying. You look back, say like in the '70s, when things were a lot easier for for artists, musicians.
Oh, I mean, well, I mean, that was that was like, yeah, I mean, but between the studios and the publishing opportunities, I mean, I'm just even talking about like 2019. I mean, LA was still like a hot. Well, you were there, you lived it.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, I know what you mean, and yeah, it's a lot more. It's very. It's a hustle. It's definitely a grind. Especially a lot of us are playing the part of, promoting. Which like back in the days, the record labels would handle all that.
No, of course, that's the worst. The artist having to promote themselves, but that's not a new thing per se. I'm just talking about more like.
Yeah.
I'm talking more like the ability for you to have a steady gig.
Oh, a steady gig.
Or just like gigs. Like, I mean, the ability. I mean, is that coming back at all? That's all I'm trying to get at. Is like I feel like we're just in this total freaking malaise or something, And I get the feeling like, is there, what are the I mean, if you chose to go out and sort of play live, would there be opportunities there as much as they were before the pandemic?
I'd say it's making it's definitely making a comeback. Good. I think people were, we were kind of locked down for so long. People are, ready to experience live music. They missed that feeling. I definitely missed it. I was I even going to a show, going to friends' shows, going to support friends of mine, I definitely missed that. And that's definitely, it's making a comeback. And there's a really cool scene out here in LA. And I feel like it's growing, a lot of just talented people out here, especially in the, as you probably know, the roots and Americana scene. There's a really, a terrific scene out there.
I agree. I mean, if you can, like, if it can be a paid gig, I mean, that's the key. You got to have a gig, it's fascinating, man. I mean, have you been on tour at all? How much have you played live in the last year? I mean, I guess things kind of started to sort of open last summer. I know I've started to go see some concerts in the summer and the fall. How much live opportunities have you had since the lockdown?
I've been lucky, since everybody's been getting vaccinated, since last summer. I kind of jumped back into it. Gigs started popping up again once people felt more safe going out. I've had some really fun time. Like I said, I went out to Kentucky last summer, and that was a really amazing experience. We recorded at this studio out in Paducah, which is like right on the Ohio River.
Oh man,
and
that's
going
like where King Records is, man.
Oh, what's that?
Well, I think that's where King Records was. So that were James.
Really?
Yeah, Cincinnati or.
Okay, yeah.
You're right on that border there. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Whole time I was there, I was just, I'm just a blues fanatic, country, old country music,
sure.
And I was just, I'm in the home of, blues music and, John Prine, all that songwriting, that's just it's in the air, So yeah, that was a really amazing experience, and had a lot of fun gigs since then. I like one of my first gigs, I think it was last June 2021. One of my first gigs coming out of the pandemic, we played this like little hippie commune up in the Sequoia Mountains. Drove like 4 hours to get up there, and
this is insane.
It was amazing. You know, like you don't realize how much you miss little experiences like that, and these interesting people you meet. You know, that's one of the most amazing things about like traveling to play is, you know, the people you meet on the road or on the, you know, the place you're playing at. So yeah, definitely been having some great experiences like that, which I've been lucky to have. And yeah, just a few days ago, I had my first gig with my own music at this place called Trip in Santa Monica. I got like a little power trio, and yeah, I'm getting ready to record an album sometime this year. So I've just been booking shows with that trio. And
who's in the power trio, man?
My buddy Jared Svedich. I've known him since.
You're dropping some names. I don't even know some of these guys. This is great, man. I love this stuff.
Yeah, he's an incredible drummer. I've known him since he was about 12. I was like 14 or 15. Yeah, we've been playing together since then. We had a band in high school. My brother was the singer in that band too, and yeah, we were really inspired by the band Cream.
Cream, man. Yeah, totally.
Named our band Brave Ulysses after the song Tales of Brave Ulysses. And yeah, Jared Svedich is the drummer. He plays with a hip hop artist named Iluje. That's really cool. He's got a lot of great like groove and like R&B chops in his playing. Super cool. And the bass player is this guy Dylan Nelson, who plays in a really cool band called Hair. They play around LA a lot.
Wow.
So yeah, those guys, they're awesome, and you know, it keeps me, you know, on my feet, you know, trying to keep up with those guys.
No, you got to keep both feet on the ground, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
I love
trio.
You know, Harrison, we have a game on this program called Name That Voice. I don't expect you to know who this is, but just pay attention to the content. We'll come back and break it down.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I believe that music, to me, brings a lot of, you know, the real reality of life to me. And, you know, I don't see materialism as being the cosmic connection in life.
No.
You know,
that's about as simply brilliantly put as I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, I don't think that brings cosmic joy.
Yeah, I think, you know, we definitely know that we are, you know, linked to a higher source. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. I think we know that things as we see them as physical things are here, and they are really a you know.
People think unusual circumstances?
Sorry, that's the commercial break for YouTube. Just hold on for 1 second.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's kind of generated. You know what I mean? Like we generate something.
Mm-hmm.
So a car is a generated object. You know, a house is a generated object. It's not something that's ordained, you see. So, you know, we look at life as, you know, sometimes people who are into materialism look at generated life. It's something that's, you know, not really ordained, you see. And I believe in ordained, and music is ordained. It's not generated. You know, we generate it through synthesizers and everything, and maybe through programs and software. But the real soulful music is an ordained thing, and to get to it, we have to be submissive. We have to believe from our heart and our soul that, you know, we are just a little conduit. You see, everything else is already existing. We are tuning in, you know. And so that philosophy has taken me into a journey in life as being a musician. I call myself a musician, but I think it's really more of my search to be one with the metaphysical, to be one with a higher authority, I think. If I can put it that way. I mean, you know, I know it sounds kind of mushy to a lot of people, but really...
No, I don't. I think it's... Harrison, thanks for sitting through that. That was an interview I did with a cat. I don't know if you're hip to this cat, Ashwin Batish. He's a teacher.
I have not heard of him.
Dude, you got to go.
Beautiful what he said.
Well,
Wow.
he's at Santa Cruz, University of Santa Cruz now. He plays.
Cool.
He's an explosive electric sitar player, and he's actually kind of a guru too. He's very intense and beautiful cat, and regardless of the out of body experiences you can have on the bandstand, or sort of the spiritual compass that you have, Harrison, was there a time in your life that you can point to when you surrendered to the music, when you sort of, I guess, maybe to the point, you got out of your own way and recognized that if you could put your ego aside, you could become a conduit for music coming through you from the heavens?
Absolutely, yeah. What's his name? I'm sorry. What?
No, it's fine. His name is Ashwin Batish.
Ashwin, but what is his last name?
Batish, Batish. I'll send you he's the man. You got to go track this cat down.
Do.
He's cosmic, dude.
For sure. Yeah. Honestly, that whole I love Indian music. I've loved it since I was. Since I heard the Beatles, that kind of opened up that George Harrison. And
Ravi Shankar, that stuff, man.
Ravi Shankar,
so
yeah.
Good, yeah.
I bought a sitar like 10 years ago.
You did?
For my high school senior project.
That is sick.
I chose to kind of study Indian music, and I took some lessons for a bit. I'm not very good at it, but I've gotten some things from it.
Dude, just the idea of picking it up and dude, you're working it out, man. Whatever.
Yeah. But I've definitely, taken a lot of inspiration from that and put that into my own music. Just that whole philosophy. I guess that stems from the spirituality of, Eastern religions, which I still, I want to learn more about. I don't know too much about, but
let's put it like this, like the idea of just, it doesn't matter which side of the spiritual fence. It's more like, you're in a band, you've led your own band, you have, when you were scuffling because you were trying to either force something or your ego was too invested, and you surrendered to the music, like you became submissive. Is there something that pops into your mind about a memory like that?
I can pinpoint, one moment. It's when me and my friend Olivia, we have a little duo called Olivia plus Harrison. We recorded a song a couple of years ago. It was right on the eve of my birthday over in Laurel Canyon, at my buddy's studio. And the song, funny enough, it has kind of a Eastern sort of vibe to it. I use this guitar tuning. It's the one Stephen Stills used on Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. It tunes all the strings to E.
Totally.
Except for the B string. And it just creates this beautiful droning sound. So me and Olivia wrote this song around this tuning. She wrote the lyrics, I wrote the music, and we decided to record it up at the studio in Laurel Canyon. And we found this tabla player, and he came by the studio, and he had not really heard the song before, so we played it a couple of times. Then as soon as the engineer, my buddy Aaron, pressed record, we started playing the song, and there's a solo section where it's just me and the tabla player. And I can remember in that moment, just I don't know, my mind shut off. I was truly in the moment. I was listening to the tabla player.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like this kind of epiphany, like I'm making this is some beautiful music we're making here, like I'm in Laurel Canyon. I'm playing this Steven Stills tuning, and I'm in this zone here, you know, and I just don't want to leave. I don't want to come down the hill, you know. I want to stay here in this moment, you know, forever, you know.
Basically, you just wanted to stay. You wanted to stay out of the way. Like you were like, in the past, maybe you'd want to tell the top player what to do, or get in, you know.
Or I'd want to I want to play as fast as I can, or something. Like, no, I'm just gonna play what I feel. I'm just gonna, like you said, surrender. You know.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. That's beautiful stuff. You know, Harrison, it kind of crystallized for me, and this is coming more from like, you know, I love, you know, the titans of music that came before me in jazz, or any of the drummers, or all the players. They had their own individual sound, and it just sort of crystallized for me the other day after talking to Billy Cobham and Gary Husband. It just, you know, like, it seemed, they say it so simply and they make it sound so simple, but they said that, you know, this is really about your life experience. Like, what has gone on in your life that you can put into your music and express that? And there's nothing to do with scales or composition or reading some charts or having massive chops or facility or techniques. It's, have you experienced the blues? Have you had ups and downs in your life? Have you really had, what do you have to say for yourself? And from a jazz context, and I don't want to paint with an overly broad brush, but so many cats are going to the academy to learn a language that I don't think can be codified in jazz and even in blues. Like, cats are coming up with huge riffology, technique, and chops. And yet, I don't hear anything related to their life story. And I wonder, like, you know, you're a young cat. And you're a blues fanatic. But have you lived the blues in your life at a certain period of time?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I compared to, like, you know, all those guys. I mean, you know, B.B. King,
Howlin' Wolf,
Miles.
Yeah.
Miles
No,
Davis,
I also just want to say, Harrison,
guys.
I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be, I mean, Miles could play the blues. Miles grew up rich. So you don't have to, like, necessarily live the blues. But to me, it's like, what do you feel is like, tell me a little bit about how you feel like your life experience that you're able to express in your music. What kind of life experience do you bring to your music?
Well, you know, I have lived the blues, and I've had being in LA. LA's not in place to live at times, you know.
Absolutely, no, it can be a bluesy place. Absolutely.
Exactly, you know, you run in, and especially as an artist, you know, there's financial woes and, you know, relationships, you know, and you know, just trying to find a place where you really fit in, you know, being away from home, all that. Yeah, you know, and what really inspires me is the people I meet along the way, new experiences, like getting, you know, driving out to Joshua Tree, you know, and just camping out for a couple days, and going out and meeting people, you know, having a drink in some, you know, dark bar, smoky bar, and that stuff has found its way into my own music.
It has. That's beautiful.
And yeah, and I was really lucky. I grew up in a little town in the Bay Area called Martinez. There was a really great.
Are you
scene.
kidding me, dude? Dude, that town, man, was part of the heavy black chitlin circuit back in the '60s, man. Like James Brown and the Flames and all those cats, man. I mean, that is a badass. And now all the now all the minorities are getting pushed out there because it's the only affordable place. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, absolutely, for sure. and then you're close to Oakland too. That's
Right.
where like a lot of John Lee Hooker lived in Oakland.
Oh my
For a
God,
bit.
dude, the nastiest cat, the most badass dudes
Yeah.
live there, man.
Yeah, and my mentor was this guy named Jim Carumpus. You know, when I was a teenager, he used to come have me sit in with him, and yeah, he really taught me what the blues is all about. He was John Lee Hooker's guitar player back in the 70s for a couple of years, and he, you know, that whole San Francisco scene back then, you know, just seemed like a really cool place. You know, obviously, you know, the blues, John Lee Hooker, but also the, you know, Carlos Santana's around and Neil Schon. They're all hanging out at all the same clubs. So he was around that in the 70s, you know, and
you might need to hook me up with that cat, man.
Yeah, he lives in Washington now.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Really,
dude, because
really
I mean, like,
cool
dude,
guy.
it was like, I mean, Oakland was a completely different beast than San Francisco even was, and it was like the funkiest vibe. And you had guys like Don Barksdale, who was an NBA player. He owned 2 black R&B clubs, and you know, Terry Haggerty from the Sons of Champlin. I don't know if you're hip to that band, but they were the best.
I haven't heard of them. Wow.
Well, the Sons of Champlin, I got to tell you, out of all the psychedelic bands, you asked Jim about this. Out of all the bands, that Santana, The Dead, Moby Grape, Janis, Jefferson Airplane, out of all the bands, like Sly Stone, Sons of Champlin was the baddest band ever. Bill Champlin and Haggerty was in that band. Anyway, you should check them out, man. They are the hippest. What a badass bunch. But they were dwelling in Oakland too. Funky town, man.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna check them out.
Yeah, no, I'll hip
Cool.
you to. Dude, I mean, they're badasses, dude. So anyway, then they get lost in the shuffle. But if you were gonna encapsulate what he taught you about the blues that is not related to theory, what would it be?
He always said one note. That's all it takes. One note.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you could play. You know, you could play all these. You could play all these notes. You know all the theory, have all the chops, but it just, you know, it just takes, all it takes is one note to penetrate somebody, you know, straight into their soul, their heart. And if you can do that, that's truly special. And he did. And, you know, guys like, you know, B.B. King, you know, when you hear one note, you can feel everything, everything they're feeling, everything they've been through in that. So I really live by that. Yeah, that's one thing he taught me.
I mean, but I think at the same time, you can't be really in your thinking mind about, if you're thinking about that one note, you're not going to get to that one note. You kind of have to be in the soul. I mean, that's I guess, how do you get to a place where you are almost in stillness? Because I would assume that those experiences, well, I mean, those one note soul piercing things, none of those guys were thinking, "Oh, this is the note I'm going to play." You know, it just came through them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. I mean, do you have a way of sort of getting comfortable to get into that space? Doesn't always happen on the bandstand, but you can't be thinking if you're going to drop a soul bomb on people.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. And you know, some nights I am thinking too much. You know, I'm
easy to do.
Yeah, I'm trying to, you know, I guess, I mean, maybe show off, or I'm trying to
do too much.
You know,
yeah, who knows?
I'm not feeling the vibe in the audience.
Yep.
I'm trying to, okay, I gotta throw more at them. You know,
I gotta force it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm in my head too much, and that's what kills it. That's what kills the vibe. And to get to that point, I guess it can take years of just take years of being up on the bandstand and learning to just relax up on stage and remember that you remember why you're doing this in the first place. Is because you love it, and like I said, it's not about throwing in all your chops and your theory. It's just about just being in the moment. That's how I would describe it. That's how you get there. Just being in that one moment, wherever it is.
And recognizing that, like Ashwin was saying, music is ordained. It's not generated. It's not, at least for people that I get off on, you're not up there creating synthetic beats and programmed music. I mean, you're trying to create a sacred environment to impact people's hearts and minds, and that requires surrender and that is hard to do when you are feeling like it's your gig and people are talking in the crowd, or maybe the bandmates are fighting each other on the bandstand in terms of playing too much on each, and it instead of just sort of, I guess that's all I would say is the next time things feel like they're falling apart, just lean into that, sit in the mess and see what comes out. I mean, that's easier said than Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I don't know how it happens. It's one of those. It has to be organic. It just happens.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, and then the ability to sort of have a Zen approach to it, to say, well, maybe it'll happen 3 times or not at all on one night, but just knowing that if you continue to take that approach of living an ordained life, not that you're some special, enlightened being, it's just you're playing the music in a sacred way, not for anything else, and it's not for generated stuff. And I mean, Coltrane might have been able to buy some nice blue suits or a car, but he wasn't thinking about that when he was up there playing. And that, and that comes with experience. So, I mean, to me, these are all the fundamental things that I think, I mean, it is the forever journey. So you're still on your path. I have one more voice to play for you, and then we'll come back and break it down.
Cool.
For that transition, that recovery, there was a split. There was a polarity that came to the surface of the experience itself. And the polarity was the past, when that tumor did exist. And now, at that time, from this point, it still is the past, but then it wasn't the past. It was a change. And I saw a total difference between what was beginning to emerge and what existed prior to the event that caused the transition. And what was beginning to emerge had certain faults in itself. And one of the strongest of them was the lack of retainment, the lack of memory. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I had to really focus more on the moment than depend on expectations of something that I thought should be there. That's when change really began to take place. And I began to focus more upon pleasure of the moment, the simplicity of now. Had no disruption, no distraction by thoughts that came from the past, fears of something that might happen in the future. The only thing that really existed was in the now. And was the birth of that realization that turned into a perspective that became the issue, became my priority from that point forward, and still is to this day. It comes down to focus upon the moment and the pleasure of life itself, without the extension into any kind of distractions. So I think compassion has something to do with that, along with all of the other virtues that I think are forms of exotic pleasure in themselves, compassion.
Harrison, that was my fourth interview with the late, great Pat Martino. Are you hip to Pat at all?
Wow. Yeah.
So Pat was
I haven't gone too deep into his work, but
well, I'm going to hip you to some stuff.
Tremendous.
I mean, the man is God, I miss him so much. He left us this year, but he was a soul brother. He put me on my path. He was my first guest back in 2011, and I'm 11 years into the program. He went there with me. He was vulnerable. We became friends. I went to his brownstone in Philly. I mean, the man, and the point is this, that the reason you're going to get off on this guy is because in the 1970s, along with Larry Coryell, McLaughlin, a few other cats, Pat was in the top guitarist in the world. I mean, he was making great albums. He was touring. He had his own style. He was at the top of his game in the jazz world. And he was getting these really, really bad headaches throughout the decade. And at the time, psychotherapy hadn't really evolved that much. And he was they were putting him in locked wards and electric shock therapy. They assumed that the headaches were from depression. And he went to California, thought maybe the sun would actually help him in L.A. And, by 1980, it had reached a point when it was just debilitating. And he went to the hospital, and technology had improved enough. They gave him a CAT scan, and the doctor said, we need to operate right now. You have 2 hours to live. You have a tumor the size of a pear behind your right eye, and we need to operate now. And he left the hospital, and he flew back to Philadelphia, and he had the surgery. And when he opened his eyes, there were people staring at him, and he didn't know who they were, and it was his parents. And he looked, and he had forgotten. He had amnesia. He lost all his memory. When he got home, there were guitars on the wall and awards and records, and none of that meant that he had no memory of it. Nothing. No memory of how to play the guitar, anything. And he went into, he could have gone two ways. He could have invested in lawyers and sued all the hospitals and doctors who gave him electric shock therapy and put him in locked wards. But what would that have really done? And what he really tried to do was relearn the guitar. And 7 years later, he got back on the bandstand, made an album in 1987 called The Return, and was literally a house of fire for the next 3 decades, touring, getting better. And that's when I really connected with him in 2011. And so when he was talking about being in the now, it meant he had no memory of the past. So the only place he could be was in the moment. It's a compelling story. There's a documentary. But Joe Pesci was a doo-wop singer. Everybody knows Pesci as an actor. But he's in this documentary because he knew Pat back in the 60s. And when Pat reunited with him in 2000, anyway, it's a great story. But there's a great documentary. Pesci's in it. Pat is a hero. But we've been talking about this concept of being in the now. And, I'm 43 and it's hard for me to be in the now. This isn't related to millennials or Gen Xers or boomers or whatever it is. It's just the level of distraction, the level of stress, and the level of sort of insanity that has engulfed our culture and our time has made it really hard for people to do what Pat's talking about, except it really can be done. And I just kind of wanted you to talk about any kind of yogic practice that you do that keeps you in the moment. I mean, for a lot of musicians, meditation is on the bandstand. They're not necessarily doing sedentary meditation. The reason they don't mind going on, play 10 shows in 11 nights or whatever is because that's their meditation, is playing music, like you said, playing music to an audience and getting into that place of peace. And I just wonder, outside of being on the bandstand, is if you have any kind of yogic practice that allows you to sort of let everything else and all the noise go away.
Yeah, I have a couple. Before I get into that, that whole story about Pat Martino, that's incredibly.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro.
inspiring.
I mean, dude, it's unreal, dude. It's really insane. It's insane, but it's a testament to the human spirit as well. Ironic,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So dig it, man.
Yeah, and about practices. I past couple of years I've gotten real. Exercising is a big thing for
Absolutely.
me. Taking care of myself. I like starting my day with a workout or even going on a run. And even I like doing little night walks. Like just a few nights ago, actually, I live kind of close to the Laurel Canyon neighborhood, and that area, the whole neighborhood, really inspires me. It's
the best, man. It's so cool, man. Yeah, it's cool, man.
And I just walk around in the neighborhood sometimes. Up in the hills, drive up to the top, and there's this amazing view of LA. That's really meditative to me. It's just sitting there and walking around in the place where most of my heroes lived and breathed. I got this really amazing high from that. I went back and home and started writing a couple songs actually from that little experience. That's one thing I do. I love, I live, California. We're close to the ocean. I love going out to the beach and even starting my day with a cold dip in the water. It's amazing. Stuff like that really, I find really meditative, and obviously, playing guitar is a very meditative tool for me as well. I get lost in that. Once I pick up a guitar, I feel like hours can go by, and I'll won't even realize it. So
that's great.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, I love it.
I feel really lucky, fortunate to live in California, which really inspires me in a lot of ways. So
it is. It's just mind-numbingly expensive. So that it's just sort of trying to figure out, those cats in Laurel Canyon back in the day, and in general in San Francisco, wherever. I mean, in New York, you could live in a loft and your rent was $60 or $100 a month, and you could make that in 1 week in the studios and go out and play the music you really wanted to at night.
Yeah.
There wasn't that crippling stress and just sort of depravity too. I mean, the amount of, and I still feel like there's a great spirit in Los Angeles. It's just there's so much people living in squalor and just sort of in despair, and it doesn't seem like, even though the answers are pretty obvious, nobody really wants to do or solve the problems. It's easier to sort of not solve them. And that also speaks to sort of the greed of capitalism and, the country that we live in. But I would just say to you, as we move forward here, when you are feeling a little discombobulated, do those things even more. Take that cold dip in the water. Go to the top of the mountain and see the views, but lean into that pain or dis-ease by doing those things that bring you into the moment. I mean, it sounds obvious, but there's a lot of times where you're just caught up in your own neuroses and you get kind of paralyzed. You feel like you can't do anything, when in fact, that's the best time to sort of push yourself into an area that's going to give you more peace. And that would be, but yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. Are you, I mean, I'm going to be up in the Bay Area at the end of February. Are you going to be up there, or are you basically camped out in LA now?
I'm pretty camped out in LA. I go up there, try to make trips up there at least 3-4 times a year. It's not too far. That's cool. What are you doing up in the Bay?
Well, it's actually a friend of mine. She lives in Walnut Creek. She's a yoga teacher there, and then there's a place called The Alley in Oakland. I don't know if you know that place, but Jeffrey Labus, who's the used to be the keyboardist for Van Morrison on Moondance and all those great albums. He plays the bar there 9 to 1 on Friday nights, so I'll be there. And then my buddy Dan Horn, his band is playing at the Chapel on a week from today. So actually, I'm going next week. Yeah, no, it's going to be. I mean, the JFS Road Tour is commencing again after 2 years. Like the train's leaving the station, man. So I want to be able to connect with, keep me abreast of the gigs you have. And I mean, I'm always out in LA, so let's definitely make it a point to get together. I'd love to come see you play live in any amalgamation. And yeah, man, stay the course and just recognize that, you are a healer and you figured out your purpose in life. And for a lot of people, they never do. So in and of itself, that is an ordained existence, and never forget that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, it was a ball. We'll do it again.
Yeah. Thank you, Jake. Really.
Harrison, all the best, my brother. I'll get this up later tonight.
Sounds good.
Be cool, brother.
You as well.
Later.
Great talking to you.
Absolutely, man. Yo, I'll send you some stuff on Pat and Ashwin as well. It would behoove you to dig those guys and add it to your repertoire.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Much love, dude.
Much love.
Peace.
See ya.
Yeah. That's it for the Jake Feinberg Show. Thanks to Sonia Karras and Harrison Flynn for carrying me through the day. We'll be back later this week. Until then, peace.